Hi, Alex here. In this video, I would like to describe a very interesting practice which I implemented in a number of business units. This experience will be especially relevant for those businesses which are at the stage of increasing the average profit per client. Also, it will be relevant for those who would like to get a working technology of implementing a new standard in the work of a sales team. So in the last video, I talked about how to use sales tools in order to increase certain KPIs. In this video, I would like to bring up one more example of implementing and using such a tool. I work in the financial services industry where there's no strictly defined cost of the product. So the goal of the manager is to sell for as much money as possible, or in other words, to convince the clients to invest as much as they can. However, working with big money is a very special skill, which a lot of employees develop only after years of working in the industry. So, if the sales team consists mainly of newbies, the inability to work with big amounts of money can be a serious problem. And at some point, I just decided to solve this problem and develop a process of how to train employees to work with large investments. I distinguish several key components of implementing a new skill at work: motivation, knowledge, belief, habits, and despair. Let me clarify this with an example. So the first one is motivation. And here, if we're talking about big amounts of money, then the employee's salary should directly depend on how they work with these big amounts. And their remuneration should be fundamentally higher for attracting large investments. The second component is knowledge. The employee must know the arguments in favor of large investments and must be able to properly talk about them. The third component is faith. So in this case, the employee must know successful examples of their experienced colleagues in order to believe in the achievability of the task. Also, they need to be motivated by the success of other people. The fourth one is habits. Here it's very simple. The employee must just develop a habit of working with large investments and suggest them regularly to all the clients. And that's it. And the last but not least is despair. So the employee must just accept the fact that this is what their job looks like from now on. From now on, they're all surrounded by the context of working with big amounts. There's no escape. There shouldn't be even a thought that the employee must return or can return to the previous format of work. It actually took me years of work in corporate education to come up with this formula. I can certainly tell you that even in case you miss only one of those mentioned components, the effectiveness of the corporate training reduces significantly. And now I'll tell you about the actions that I have taken in order to make sure that all the mentioned components were in place while I was implementing and introducing the work with large investments. Motivation. With each sales team leader, I agreed on the range of amounts attracting which the employees would receive increased remuneration. I agreed on the range of amounts individually for each sales team and sometimes for each employee. For instance, if an employee has never attracted more than $50,000, then at this level I would set a bar with increased pay. And some teams had progressive scales where the percentage of employees' remuneration depended on which threshold was hit. The higher was the threshold hit, the higher was the percentage. The next one is knowledge. And here I distinguish two main topics. First is how to start a conversation about a large investment. And second, how to make arguments in its favor. To cover both of these topics, I organized trainings and weekly workshops with the analysis of calls by the employees where the large investments were mentioned. The third point is faith. In order for the employees to believe that it was realistic to attract large investments, I organized regular presentations by the experienced employees who attracted record amounts of money to the company. At these meetings, the experienced employees shared practical advice and arguments for bringing those big amounts, and also they shared the recordings of their calls to the clients who brought big money to the company. The fourth point, which is habits. Sometimes an employee needs just a small push to start doing something simple but uncomfortable. Over time, this becomes a habit and the discomfort goes away. But to make this happen, I set a requirement for the amount of calls per day in which this work with large investments should be conducted. At the very beginning of the project, rather soft requirements were imposed on employees. For example, an employee should have at least 5 of those calls per day, out of which they independently select just one and send it to the responsible business trainer for listening and evaluation. At the same time, the estimation of the work quality of employees should be conducted only on the basis of those calls with large amounts mentioned. And the final point, despair. The sooner an employee accepts the fact that their job must change forever, the sooner your business will see the results. And this is where what I call contextual immersion can help. To immerse in the context of working with large amounts means to create such an environment in the team where the employees are just surrounded by large amounts from all sides. Large amounts are talked about, there are separate meetings dedicated to large amounts, and at every meeting, large amounts are a separate focus topic. The employees undergo training, master classes, breakdowns of their calls with large amounts mentioned, fill out reports, and that all requires daily control from the side of a business trainer and a sales team leader. Only if all the mentioned conditions are met, your training will definitely give the result. The employee has only one choice in this case: to accept the new reality or to change the job. And all the team members must accept this reality and systematically fulfill the task in order for you as a manager to be able to compare, highlight the best, and work on conversions. As a disadvantage of this approach, I can only emphasize the high dependence on administrative authority, as well as a very high degree of workload for the employees who control the process. If control over the process is loosened just a bit, salespeople will have a chance to slack off, not to adopt the new habits, and to fall back to the previous, less stressful form of work. In this case, the implementation of new process of working with large investments will take way much more time. As always, I've covered only the basic principles of the approach which I have developed, but I'm ready to discuss the details in the comment section or in private messages as well. Thanks for watching.